Morning, ma'am. Shall we
Yeah.
start?
Yeah, we'll start.
Good evening, participants. I welcome you all for this session. I hope you are doing good. Today's session is about computer networks. So to present that, we have a subject expert with us, Professor Vani Chakraborty. Madam, area of interest would include data science and artificial intelligence. I hope you will benefit from you get more knowledge from this session. With this, I request Professor Vani to take over the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you, Vinodina ma'am. Am I audible to you all? I hope yes. Okay, I'll start with the session. Okay. Now today I will be talking about computer networks. Okay. So I'll be doing computer networks paper for you. Now, I cleared the net paper somewhere in the year 2017, November. I cleared the paper. So a lot of work I had done prior to that in the course of preparation for the net exam. So what I have done is I'm presenting to you the Word document in which I had collected all the previous net paper questions related to a particular subject and I have solved it. Okay. Now, when you look at, if you must be, you must have started your preparation long time back with respect to net. Now, the first thing which we will want to do is few things to understand the process of preparing for the examination. First of all, the syllabus is, of course, very huge, especially for computer science and applications, because we are talking about covering at least some 10 to 15 different subjects in one single examination. So you have data structures, you have networks, you have operating system, you have algorithms, you have software engineering, then you have artificial intelligence, you have programming languages, you have everything, you have even discrete mathematics. All of this is being asked. So how will you go about studying? The first and the foremost thing is the focus is on understanding the basics. So without getting the basics right, it's very, very difficult to clear the examination. And one more thing is, you cannot say that my strength area subject is this, I will focus only on this, and I will not be focusing on some other subject. That is not going to help you pass the exam. You will have to know everything about something and something about everything. You cannot skip any subject, because what I have seen is sometimes from a subject which I am not very confident about, the questions are very easy. But on a subject which I have studied a lot, the questions are so difficult that it's very difficult to attempt. So what happens is you will have to study everything. All the subjects have to be given equal importance. Okay. So don't leave any subject Let us start with looking at now how I've made this document is when I was preparing, I used to take every year question paper and look at the questions related to a particular subject only. In this case, I have looked at only questions related to computer networks. So I will take those questions, try and solve it. Now, when I say solve it, understand it completely so that such a question is asked in the examination or similar question is asked in the examination, we will be in a position to do it. Okay. So the first topic, now how I have organized the topic is I've looked at every single subheading and then I will tell you what are all the important questions under each one of it. Okay. Now, I'm not going to discuss with you the syllabus for computer networks and all with respect to your, net examination, because the syllabus is found anywhere. You go and search for the syllabus, you will get it. Okay, that is not a problem. So we are not going to be discussing the syllabus. I will look at some certain kind of problems which are often asked in the examination. Okay. Now, the question is roughly how many questions are asked in the examination. Now, when we wrote paper 2 and paper 3 together, there were around 75 paper 3 questions and 50 paper 2 questions earlier. So 50 plus 75 is around, around 115 questions you're talking about. There were around 10 to 12 questions in computer networks. Now, there is only a paper 2 of 100 questions concentrating on all the computer science subjects. So I went through the recent papers 2018, 19 and all, and there are around 6 to 7 questions related to computer networks on an average. Okay, sometimes it might be little bit more, sometimes it might be little bit less. Okay, so let's focus on what are all the kind of questions which they ask in the examination. Now let's start with the first one, which is your open system interconnection model or your OSI model. Okay, so normally what happens now, what I want you people to do is I want you people to make a note of it. Okay, because this is a quite a big file, around 40-50 pages file. Okay, with a lot of information. So actually I want to put this in the in a blog or some place where all of you can access it. So I will be doing it sometime. Okay, so but right now, as of now, instead of just simply sitting and listening, I want you all to take up, have a paper and a pen or a system or something and note down what we are doing. Okay, so that you will have an idea of how we approach, towards solving answers for a particular question. The same approach, you can use it for other subjects also. It will be useful for you. Okay. So the first topic which I am looking at is your OSI model. Now, I am not here to teach OSI model. I am very sure all of you are already aware of the OSI model and the 7 layers in it. Okay. So I now in this notes, whatever I have prepared, every single thing I have basically written how I will study and how I want to understand the subject. Okay, so if you want to learn in detail about this OSI model, you can always refer to a standard book on the subject. You will get all the information. Okay, but here I am talking about how I have understood this particular model. So it is completely in my own words. I have written what I have concluded or understood. Suppose if I have taken contents from any other place, I have mentioned that also. Now, what will this consolidated notes contain? This contains the following. The first one is whatever questions which I have taken and solved. All those questions with solutions are there. Okay. Second thing is there are some questions which are just based on, just information based. Okay. So there is nothing to learn. It's just a formula or it is just a fact, something like that. That is just taken and given. Okay. Next thing is I have done it based on topic wise and I've also done it based on, year wise. Okay. So something like June 2014, paper 3 questions, these are the questions. June 2014, paper 2 questions, these are the questions and these are the solutions. Some of the questions will get repeated because I would have done it in the topic also. I would have done it in the question paper wise pattern also. Okay. So wherever it is repeated, you will only come to know, if you are listening carefully, you will know what are the questions which are getting often repeated. Okay. Now, one more thing is, see, why I had to create this content was for quite a few reasons. Okay. Listen carefully. The first of the reason was that there are a lot of places where information and answers about all the questions are given. Say for example, I take June 2019 net paper. What are the answers for all the 100 questions? It is available somewhere. It's available even in the UGC net website only, or the NTA, National Testing Agency website only. All the answers are there. But it is not about knowing the answer. It is about knowing how you got the answer. That is only going to help you. So there is no point. So there are a lot of blogs. If you go and see, there are a whole lot of blogs where there will be the question. Immediately, the 4 options will be given, answer will be given, answer A or B or C or D. Now, how did we derive at the answer is something which no one explains. So that is a problem area. That is a gap area which I found. So that is why I came up with my own consolidated notes, where I not only write about the particular question, I will also tell you how or why we derived at that answer. If there is any ambiguity with respect to the answer, I would even mention that, because there are some places where I have not chosen a particular answer. Why I have not chosen an answer? Because I don't know which is the right answer, because the right answer is not given in the list. Sometimes it happens with net exams. That's called grievance. You can always post your grievance if you feel that the 4 options which are given for a particular answer, nothing is right. You can always post it and they will correct it at a later point of time and give you the correct answer or the updated answer. It is possible that way. So that also happens. So that is how my approach is throughout this consolidated notes which I am going to present you right now. Okay. So this talks about the purpose of your OSI reference model. I took a picture and I'm also talking about each of the different layers. There's application layer, presentation layer, session layer, transport layer, the network layer, data link layer, physical layer. Okay. Then I'm talking, there is a small, important bit of information. Suppose if I'm talking about physical layer, how is the information transmitted? Information is transmitted in the form of bits. What about data link layer? In the form of frames. Network layer, packets. Now after that layer, it becomes a message with a proper header and a content and all, and it continues to be the message till the higher end of the layers. Okay, so this is a general idea. So first thing which you all have to do is, when I'm talking about OSI reference model, learn even the TCP IP model. Okay, keep both and compare it and learn. Write each one of the layers and identify what are all the roles and responsibilities of every layer. What does it do? So say for example, if I say physical layer is only for transmission of bits, what does the data link layer do? It is used for error detection, it is used for creating frames, it is used for ensuring flow control, and so on. What is the use of a network layer? It is used for routing. So you identify each one, what each one of the layers does very clearly, because there are questions which are based on that. So let's start with the first question. So this is one of the questions which was asked in one of the papers. I'll come to it which paper. The question is this: match the following they have given. They have identified each of the layers: physical layer, data link layer, network layer, transport layer, application layer, and they are again telling what each one of these layers do. So we will have to identify or match which one is the correct answer. So the options are this way. The 4 options which are given, A, B, C, D. Okay, so we are supposed to identify the correct one. Now sometimes what happens in UGC net question, or for that matter even your GATE question paper, the thing is, the options will not be like, it will not be very, very obvious. It will be very, very, the difference is going to be very small and very subtle. Okay, so we need to understand the difference very clearly. And sometimes what you can do, you can take the answer and work on it, work backwards and get to the question. So that is also one way of approaching the right answer. So whichever one, in some cases what we will do is, we will take the answer and we will try to get reach the question and identify that to be the right answer. So use whatever is comfortable for you, use it. Okay, but in this case, I can see when I talk about physical layer, it is the transmission of bit stream. So there is A should be matched with 4, and there is a option called the first option A, where the alphabet A is matched with 4. So, and there are no other options where it is matched that way. So in this case, I can conclude that the first one is the right option. So let's look at how is it matched for B. B is data link layer. What is it? 5, formation of frames, which is correct. C is network layer. What is it? Move packets from one destination to another. D is transport layer, process to process message delivery. Last one is application layer, allow resources to network access. So most of it, all of it are correct. So I would say that answer is A. Okay. So now what happens is, you will have to be confident at least about 1-2 things. Okay, 1-2 options. You're very sure about 1-2 options, you can keep that and work towards your answer, which is right or wrong. Okay, the next one is, next question, again a question which is on the similar lines. Which layers of the OSI reference model are host to host layers? Okay, so here you should know that generally the higher end of the layers are considered as host to host layers, and the lower end of the layers are considered as what are called as media layers. Okay, so the answer here happens to be option A. Why? Because transport, session, presentation, application are from the upper layers and they are considered to be the host to host layers. And the last three, the data link, network, data link, and physical, are considered as the media layers. Okay, so this is one of the questions. Next one, encryption and decryption is the responsibility of which layer? So here again, as I told you, you should be very, very clear about what you are trying to, what each of the layers is trying to do. Be very clear about that. Put a list, make a table, understand it completely, then take those questions and try to solve them. Now in this case, physical, no. Network, no. Data link, no. So the only other option is application. Now we might say that it works in the presentation layer, it is more applicable, but presentation is not available, so I would go with the application layer. Okay, next one is, which layer of OSI reference model is responsible for decomposition of messages and generation of sequence numbers to ensure correct recomposition from end to end of the network? So which is the right answer? Now in this case, the answer which would perfectly fit for this is your transport layer, because physical, data link, and application doesn't do any of those. So transport layer is the right option. Okay, so this is with respect to the first question, the first topic which we have considered for, looking at understanding or approaching the computer network questions is your OSI reference model. Okay, are you all clear with this? Yes. Can you just put a thumbs up sign or something on the chat box so that I will know what is, yes, okay. So I'll move on to the next topic, which is the IP address. Okay, now here again, I've taken the IP address. What I've done is I've given a clear explanation of what we are talking about in the IP address. Okay, and then I'm trying to give you some sample questions from this. Now, this is again a very important topic. At least some 1-2 questions will be asked from this topic, where asked from this topic. Okay, so now what you can do is you can see all these kind of questions. It can come from anywhere. So that is the thing of it. You need to be prepared for everything, and you need to have a cheat sheet towards the end. Now this one IP address which I am talking about, this should be in your cheat sheet. Okay, the one where it tells you what is the range of values, what is the range for each one of your IP addresses: class A, class B, class C, and class D. Okay, it's very important because it's very useful also. So now what are we talking about in IP address? Now we know that, again, I am not going to teach you the theory behind it. As I told you before, I will be talking only about the general idea. Now, when I talk about representing an IP address, all of you must be familiar. It's given like this. It is given as a value in separated by a decimal point. Okay. Now, each one of those values, it is called as your octet. Okay. It's a 32-bit. It requires 32 bits for storage. Okay. But it is grouped into 8 bits each, 4 groups of 8 bits each. Okay. So now what happens is each 8 bit is considered, or it's called as a octet. Now the IP addresses are classified into, grouped into 5 classes. What are they? A, B, C, D, and E. How do you differentiate between each of these classes? Okay. One way of looking at is, you have to look at the first 4 bits of the first octet of the IP address. So listen carefully. When I take any IP address, there are 4 octets. So take only the first octet. Even in the first octet, take only the first 4 bits of the first octet. And then, so this is where it is, the first 4 bits of the octet. Take this. Here I will tell you how each one of the class addresses are different. Suppose if the first bit is 0, then that IP address belongs to class A. Okay. And class A addresses will have the following range. It will have, suppose if the first octet has got a number between 0 to 127, I can say that it is a class A address. Okay. Now here remember, 127 is used for representing local host. So it's a special reserved address, but even then 0 till 127, if the first octet has got a value within that range, then it is going to be a class A address. Okay. So now let's move on. Class B. Class B means the first 2 bits are going to be 1 and 0. So in class A, it was only 0 here, but in class B, it is 1, 0. This is your class B address. So class B address, what is the starting range? It is from 128 to 191. Now, if you remember this range, so this is a thing for your cheat sheet. Okay, so you need to write down this and remember it with you. So class A means 0 to 127. Class B means 128 to 191. Okay, so 128 to 191 is your class B address. Okay, next one, class C means the first 3 bits are 110, then that is your class C address. It starts from 192, goes till 223. So if I have a IP address which is given as 221 point some 192.78.4, I will look at the first octet. It is 221. 221 means it is a class C address. I can conclude that way. Okay, there is no need for any more calculations, any more reductions, nothing is required. Okay, now you might wonder how we are saying that it is 192, how we are saying that it is 191, or how we are saying that it is 127. This is how the calculation is. I have described the calculation also. See why? Because this is 110. The lowest value here will be all zeros. Okay, so it's going to be 110, 0, 0, 0, 0, all of it. That is what is represented here. Okay, 110 and all of it is 0. Okay, suppose if I convert it into a decimal equivalent, this is 2 power 7 plus 2 power 6. What is 2 power 7 plus 2 power 6? That is nothing but your 192. So that is why the class C addresses starts from 192. It goes till 223. Why? Because if I put 111, this is a maximum which you get it, 111. All ones if I put in the rest of the 5 positions, and if I convert it into a decimal equivalent, it will be 223. That is why it is still 223. So if you want to understand, you can understand it this way. Otherwise, if you want to just keep it as a cheat sheet, class A 0 to 127, class B 128 to 191, class C 192 to 223, class D is 224 to 229. Here again I have given the calculation of how it is this way. Okay, 224 to 229. The last one is your class C. Now remember, class D addresses are used for multicasting. It's a very important property here. You should remember that. Sometimes they will ask that also in the examination. Now if the first 4 bits of your octet happen to be 1111, then the address is a class E address. What is the range of decimal number? 240 to 255. Okay. So remember this you need to have a clear understanding. If you have this clear understanding, then you can solve any kind of questions. It's not a problem at all. So that's why I'm telling you, if you take one question, take it and just go till the lowest level, whatever is possible to understand that question, take all that effort, then it will be useful. Okay, there's no point in learning just on figuratively, just on the top. You should not learn, you should learn it completely. Okay, so this is the reason why we got 240 to 255. So now we have a cheat sheet with the range of values. So please have that range of values written with you now. Okay, because when I'm going to ask you questions, it will be useful. Okay, I can even wait for one of you to answer in the chat box. Okay, so keep the answers, keep the cheat sheet. The range is this way: class A 0 to 127, class B 128 to 191, class C 192 to 223, class D 224 to class D is 224 to 229, and class E is 240 to 255. Okay, it's not 229, it's 239. Sorry. Okay, 224 to 239, and class E is 240 to 255. Please have this. Now, when I'm going to ask you, any one of you can answer in the chat box. I'll wait for your answer. Okay, so let's start with the questions. The first one, see, this is your question. In IP version 4, the IP address 200.200.200.200 belongs to which class? Now, can anyone type in the chat box what is the right answer? Now, okay. So it is class C. Now let us see whether the answer is class C. Yes, it is the C. Okay. Thank you, Shalini. Thank you, Sharon, for the right answer. Okay. Now the thing is, you don't have to look at the rest of the octets at all. Look only at the first octet, and determining the range, you can give the answer. Now, if such questions are asked, see, that is what I'm telling you. Sometimes what happens, no? They will ask a simple question from a subject which you don't know much, and they might ask you a difficult question from a subject which you have learned a lot of times. So that is why you should learn everything. That all covering all of these topics is very, very important for you to learn it that way. Okay, now what I did was, when I was learning, when I was preparing for my net also, what I did, I created a blog and I had put all the questions which I am trying to learn, how I am getting the answer for it, I put it in that blog. Okay, I'll share you the link for that. It is called ugcnetsolved-computerscience.blogspot. Okay, it is still available, but I have not updated it for a long time because I don't have time to update it. But till then, whatever I have done, around 80 to 90 articles I have put, where I have solved each and every paper, taken pains to solve everything, and I have put it there. Okay. Now, when we were doing the exam, what used to happen was paper 2 used to be simple questions and paper 3 used to be some difficult questions. Now they have combined all the difficulty level and they have made it into one. So what we used to do was solving as paper 3 used to take a lot of time, but I still sit and used to solve it. It's called UGC NetSolve-computerscience.blogspot.com. You can go refer to it at a later point of time. So now next question, we'll go to the next question. This is again very simple. Can I expect an answer? Classful addressing. The IP address 190.255.254.254 belongs to which class? B. Okay. Again, Sharon, very good. Okay, let's see what is the right answer. It is B. Okay. With the cheat sheet, answering it is just a matter of, the only thing is you should remember this range in the exam. That is the thing. With whole lot of things remembering. So what you do is have certain formulas which are very, very important. The moment they give you the answer sheet, don't look at the question paper. Go to the last page, write in a pencil all these cheat sheet formulas. You can write it and keep it so that you can refer to it in the examination time and just answer it straight away. Okay. In classful IP addressing, the IP address 123.23.156.4 belongs to what format? It is A, of course, because it is below 127. Okay, very good, Renita, very good answer. Okay, next question. I don't know whether it is from the same topic. Let me see. IP address in class B is given by. So now here what they have done is they have not given a set. They have given a set of values and they have said IP address in class B. Now here the trick is very good. I got the answer already from many people. Fantastic. It is a B. Now it's 191 and 192, but 192 is for C. So there is a very subtle difference between that. Just to confuse students, the options are given this way. Of course, 125 and 10, it's very clear that it is not the right answer. But B is the right answer because you people are experts now knowing with the cheat sheet and the range of values. Okay. So this is for your second set of questions. Okay. So IP address we are done with. Okay. Let's move on to the next questions. Now here what I have done is I have taken some problems and we have tried to solve it. Okay. Now what I want you to do is you write down the question and maybe the problem along with it, and you can try to solve it. Now this is just a straightaway problem of filling in the formula. Just use the formula and get the answer. Okay. Now, first of all, let me read out the question and then we will see how we got the answer. Now, unless we know how we got the answer, we will not be in a position to. So let's read what is happening here. Okay. An analog signal carries 4 bits in each signal unit. If 1000 signal units are sent per second, then baud rate and bit rate of the signal are dash and dash. Okay. So this is your question. So they want you to calculate the baud rate and the bit rate of the signal. Now what they have provided how many bits are there in each signal unit and how many signal units are sent per second. So these are the two informations which are already provided. Now you need to calculate these two. So first of all, let's understand what we are trying to calculate. Okay, we are trying to calculate bit rate. So what is bit rate? It's nothing but BPS, that is number of bits per second. What is baud rate? Baud rate is the number of signal elements per second. Now, is there some match between these two? 1000 is the signal units per are sent per second. Baud rate is the number of signal elements sent per second. Okay, there is something similarity is there. Okay, but let's look at how to calculate the bit rate. We have to use the formula. What is the formula? The formula is called S is equal to N into 1 by R. This is a formula. Now, where did I pick up this formula? Now, remember, in order to solve, see, basically what they want is when you are talking about clearing each one of these subject paper, they want to be thorough in that subject. So you have to take the book which is the master or which is the Bible for that particular subject. You have to pick that book. There is no other option. So when I'm talking about computer networks, lot of questions are taken from Tannenbaum. Okay. And operating system, they will again take it from Tannenbaum, or they will take it from, there's one more book, I'll tell you the name. Sometimes the questions are picked exactly same question, whatever they have done in that operating system book, the same problem is given in the examination without even changing values. That is also possible. Okay, but you will have to go through all these books, go through these books line by line and chapter by chapter and try to understand. Otherwise, what you do, take a question, take that book, see where that relevant topic is there, you will find it. Now I have picked the answers for my questions from the Tannenbaum for computer networks, and there is one more black book for computer networks. I'll tell you the name of the book. It is called Gallo. Okay, Michael A. Gallo and William Hancock. It's a very good book for computer networks. That also. So you can refer to any book nowadays. Everything is available online. So just take some standard book. Don't invest any money on buying any of these, you know, multi-subject books and all. It is a complete waste. Okay, because they don't teach you anything, and whatever is given there, none of those things will be coming in the examination, because they try to squeeze in some 12 or 14 subjects content in one book. I have bought those books. I'm telling from my experience, it is of no use at all. What you have to do is, for every book you have to take the most standard author, sometimes preferably Indian author. Okay, although I'm saying Tannenbaum here, Tannenbaum is it's a very standard book, but lot of, let's say, theory of computation, there is one author with there is one very famous Indian author. Again, questions are asked from that book. Okay, so look for the most standard author of that particular book and then refer to its contents. So for data structures, you have to pick a book. For operating system, pick a book. Computer networks, pick a book. Software engineering, everything. Okay, pick the standard author and read it. Okay, so this is the formula. So now in this case, what's happening is, R is nothing but bits in each signal unit, which is R. What is S? S is the signal units which are sent per second, which is 1000. And N is what? Is the bit rate, which number of bits per second, which is not known. Okay, so how do we know the value of N? N is equal to S into R, because the general formula is S is equal to N into 1 by R. What is the value of S? 1000. What is the value of R? 4. Now I get 4000 BPS, which is nothing but bits per second. So bit rate of the signal is bits per second. Baud rate of the signal is 1000 bauds per second, which is nothing but the number of signal units per second, which is what I mentioned here. Okay, signal units per second. That is your baud rate. So what is the correct answer? 4000 bauds per 4000 bauds per second. 1000 bauds per second and 4000 BPS is the right answer. So answer is D is the right answer. Okay, so you can note down this formula for S is equal to N into 1 by R. Okay, towards the end of the consolidation, I have given a gist of almost all important formulas which you require for solving at least important problems in your computer networks. Okay, so I hope all of you noted down this formula. Maybe in future, when we are getting a similar question, I will ask you this. Okay, next one is your RSA question. Now this is again public key crypto system. It's a very, very important question. Sometimes they will ask different ways. Okay, this is one question which we are encountering here. It's completely problem based. Okay, there's one more question which we will see, where what they do is, again, they provide some of the values and they tell you or they give you a formula, a problem related question on RSA. Okay, so listen carefully what we are doing. I request you to solve it along with me. Okay, take down the question, just work it out how we are getting the answer. Okay, now I'm telling you again, the explanation for all this you will not get anywhere. You go to any blog, any place, you will not find it. Today what happened, I went and searched in one particular blog. they had put the answer, but the explanation was exactly what I had given in my blog. The same explanation is cut and copied. Now, this is what happens when you put such information, or when you do such things. There is no copyright or anything. Anybody can take your information. So that is what happened when I was looking at it. The same explanation is given there. So it's very difficult to find the explanation. I have done the best of what I could understand. So please work it along with me. Okay. So P and Q values are given normally. Okay. D is also given, E is also given. Now, theory behind RSA, we don't have time to do that. So please go back to your book, Computer Network Standard book, read what is RSA, public key crypto system. Why is it called RSA? It is based on the first names or first syllables of three people who found out this RSA algorithm, and so on. Okay. So now what we are trying to find is, we are trying to find the value of E. Okay. So they have given few options: 101, 103, 105, 107. Now please have these values P and Q with you, and D also with you. Remember that. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is, I will come down. Let us start it. Okay. P is equal to, what is it? Already given, 13. Okay. Okay. Q, 31, already given. Now I can calculate the value of N. What is the value of N? N is nothing but P into Q. Now, am I going to use N in my calculation? Not. So I have left it empty, but you can fill the answer. There is no problem. Okay. Fill the answer, have it with you. Now you need to calculate even the value of M. What is the value of M? M is nothing but P minus 1 into Q minus 1. Again, I am telling you the theory behind using this, the formula behind this, why it is that way. Please refer to your book. We are just following only the problems. But there is a reason why all of this has a place in a encrypted message. How the message gets encrypted is based on each of the values which are given here. That is why we are using it. Okay. So what is the value of M? M is P minus 1, which is 13 minus 1, which is 12. Q minus 1, which is 31 minus 1, which is 30. So what is 12 into 30? It is 360. Okay. So till now you're with me. Yeah. Can you put a S or something so that I will know that you're with me till now? Okay. Okay. Now let's continue. Now what we have to do is, we have to find the value of E. Okay. Now there is a property which is associated with E. What is the property which is associated with E? E should be a prime number. It should be prime to M. That is, E and M should be relatively prime. That is, when you do a GCD of E and M, the answer should be 1. Okay. Because M is E is a prime number. So if it is prime number, it's either divisible by itself or by 1 only. So GCD of E and M should be always 1. Choose a number that way. So what is the first property of E? The property of E is, it should be a it should be a prime number. That is a property of E. Okay. And it should be small. Okay. So now they want us to find the value of E. Okay. Now when I see the list of A, B, C, D values here, I can find that 101 is there, 103 is there, 105, 107, of which 105 is not even a prime number. So I can leave that. See, we will get into the question from the answer. Okay. So there are two ways of getting it. One, from the question you go to answer, otherwise from the answer you go to the question. So whatever method. So in this way, I'm going to rule out what will be the not correct answer. So C is ruled out. Why it is ruled out? Because it is not even a prime number. But they don't make it so easy for you. The rest of the options are prime. 101 is prime, 103 is prime, 107 is prime. So which one would be the value of E? Now, in order to calculate that, so now what I'm going to do is, I take 101 and 103, out of which any one could be the right answer. Now, in order to calculate the value there, I'm going to write the equation. What is the equation? The equation is D into E equal to 1 mod m. This is the equation. Now, this is developed into this equation. Please listen carefully. This is the final equation which I can develop from the earlier equation. Now, this is available in your Hancock and the Gallo book which I spoke about. They have given this step. Okay. So, what is the value of d? D is nothing but 1 plus a into m divided by e. This is based on this formula only. But now here, my question is, I want to find the value of E because I even know the value of D. Why? D is given here, correct? D is already provided to you in the question. D is provided, they want the value of E, okay? So what you do is go down there and you fill in. Now, remember, when you are actually using the RSA algorithm, this is not done manually, okay? This is done automatically, or this is done by the algorithm. But in this case, we are going to simply sit and calculate and get into the value of E, okay? So how we are getting into the value of E? The first thing is, first time, we're just substituting the value of A to be 0. When I substitute the value of A to be 0, A into M will be 0, correct? Now you already know the value of M. Please remember, M is nothing but 360, which I've already calculated, okay? So A into M, that is 0 into 360. Excuse me, 0 into 360 is 0. So that is why here I am getting it as 0. So what is it? 1 plus 0 divided by 7. What will be 1 by 7? It is some 0.1428, which is not the value of E. I have value of E as only 101, 103 or 107. It can be only the 3 of this. Okay. So let's move to the next step. Let me substitute the value of A to be 1. If I substitute the value of A to be 1, what is 1 into 360? 360 only. 360 plus 1 is 361. 361 divided by 7 is 51.5. Next one. So this is also again not my E. So I would substitute the next answer, which is I'll make the value of A to be 2. If I make the value of A to be 2, 2 into 360, that is nothing but 720. 720 plus 1 is 721. 721 divided by 7 is nothing but 103. So I got the value of E based on this equation, based on this equation. So what is the correct answer for this question? The correct answer is 103, which is nothing but B. Okay. Please take this kind of questions and try to solve it, because they will ask at least one question. Normally they ask based on this RSA algorithm. Okay. I hope all of you are clear with this. Now I will just show the screen for one more minute so that you can note down the important formulas: P value, Q value, N value, M value, how we are calculating. What is the formula? Note down this formula, because this is a very important formula, because this is based, or this is used for, sometimes what they will do is they will give the value of E and they will tell you to calculate the value of D, in which case you will use this formula. Okay. Sometimes they will give the value of D and tell you to calculate the value of E, in which case you will use this formula. Okay. So remember this formula, and the value of A being substituted with the values of 0 and 1 and 2. Now, based on the questions, it will not go beyond these few steps. So it will be easy for you to solve. Okay. I hope all of you understood this answer. Okay. There is more explanation given for this, but finally, the conclusion is the answer for the value of E is 103. Okay. Fine. Let's move on to the next question. Okay. Now in this question, what we are doing is there are quite a few questions to be solved. So I will focus only on those questions where I have to solve something. Okay. Now what we are doing here is, let's take the next question where there is a message. Okay. It has to be transmitted using the CRC polynomial x3, x to the power of 3 plus 1 to protect it from errors. The message that should be transmitted is, now this will come in your data link layer problem solving. Okay. Now, how do I go about solving this problem? Here again, an explanation and an example is given in your Gallo book. So please go refer to that book. Okay. Otherwise, it will be there even in your Tannenbaum, no problem. But there are few answers. Now we need to choose the right one. So first of all, let us write down what is the message to be transmitted. What is the message to be transmitted? 11001001 is the message to be transmitted. Okay. What is the polynomial which needs to be used? It is x to the power of 3 plus 1. Now since this is a third degree polynomial, okay, this is for this one, the first one is for x to the power of 0. I hope you're able to see what I'm pointing out. This one is x to the power of 0. This one is x put to the power of 1, x squared, x cubed. Now, how is the polynomial given? X to the power of 3 has got a position 1 and x to the power of 0 also has got a position 1. The rest of it is empty. Suppose if your generator polynomial was x to the power of 3 plus x squared plus 1, then it will be 1101. Okay. I hope you understood this, what we are trying to do here. Based on the polynomial, you have to write this number sequence. The bit sequence has to be written here. Since it is x cube, it is 1 here. It's 1 here, so it is x to the power of 0. There is also a 1. In between x to the power of 1 and x squared, it is going to be 0. Okay. So I have written this. Now what I need to do is, I need to divide the message to be transmitted by this generator polynomial. Okay. So let's go down and see how the generator polynomial is done. Now, one more thing before we divide, what we do is, since it is a third degree polynomial, to the original message, we have to add 3 more zeros. So this is my original message, 11001001. I will be adding 3 more zeros here because the generator polynomial is of third degree. Suppose if it was second degree, you will add only 2 zeros. Okay. First degree 1 0, fourth degree 4 zeros, and so on. Okay. So what I did was, we have added these 3 zeros. We are dividing it by 1001. When you divide it, now it's a binary division. I hope all of you are familiar with binary division. Do all of that. At the end of it, what are you getting? I am getting a reminder as 011. Remember. Now what we are supposed to do is, take the reminder and add it to the original message. That is what will get, transmitted. So what is the original message? Original message is 11001001. Now what is the reminder? 011 is the reminder. So this is the place where to the original message, the reminder of 011 is added. So this is the right answer. Okay. Answer D is the right answer. So go down and you will see. See, now the problem is, what happens is, all this are not taught to us when we are actually learning the subject. We don't spend time enough to solve these kind of problems. But if we take time to learn it that way, then it will be really, really useful for us in all these competitive examinations. Okay. But then when we learn the subject, we just focus only on the theory. We don't learn it based on the problems and we just rush off. Okay. So we need to spend some time, and I used to spend a lot of time trying to understand each of the questions and the corresponding answer, and I had put it out so that it will be useful for others to learn. Okay. So I hope all of you understood this question. Okay. Just put a message for me so that I will know that you people are listening. Okay. So yeah, I got some answers. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon, again. Okay. Now let's move on to the next question. Okay. This is again, slightly out of the, I'm not showing you the simple questions. I'll move on to the simple questions in the course of the lecture. Now, maybe we may not have time to go through all of the questions, but I want to show at least the important questions to you people. Okay, now this is the question. Let's see. It's a very simple question, but remember one thing, when it comes to all these questions, the question will be very complex, but the options will be simple, the idea will be simple. So the first thing which you have to believe in is you have to believe in the positivity. Yes, I can do it. And then you approach it, you will get it. Okay. So what is the question? Let's read the question. Page shift keying, PSK method, is used to modulate digital signal at 9600 bps using 16 level. Find the line signals and speed. Now this is the question. Now with respect to the theory, again I request you people to go and read it. Now one more thing is, this is not called page shift keying, it's called phase shift keying. PSK stands for phase, PHASE. Okay. So now if you go anywhere, you will find this question and the answer is given as A. Now how did we get the answer as A? That is what I am trying to show you. Okay. Now this is again available in your Tannenbaum book. Otherwise you just note down this table. What is this table? There is a modulation which is given. Baud rate and bit rate are given for the same. What are the different modulations? There is a 4 PSK, 8 PSK, 16 PSK. What are the baud rates? N only. But what is the bit rate? Bit rate is 2N, 3N and 4N. Okay. Now remember this, because this we are going to use it for our answer or problem solving. And one more thing, this is the question says it's a 16 level. Now what is the value at 16 level modulation? Baud rate is N, bit rate is 4N. Okay. Remember that. Okay. And one more thing, the bit rate is also provided here. Remember, BPS stands for bits per second. So the bit rate is already provided. What is it? It is 9600. Okay. So let's look at how to calculate the modulation rate. Okay. So it is actually phase shift keying. Okay. What is provided? BPS, which is 9600. One more thing which is provided is what level, which is 16. Okay. According to the table for a 16 PSK, what is the baud rate? N. The bit rate would be 4N. Now, what is the bit rate which is provided here? It is 9600. So, in order to calculate, so it is basically like, what is it? 9600 is equal to 4 into N. What is the value of N? N is equal to 9600 by 4. What is 9600 by 4? The answer would be 2400. So the value of N is nothing but the baud rate, which is nothing but 2400. So what is the baud rate and the speed or the modulation rate? It is going to be the 2400 bauds is the right answer. Okay. Now how is it calculated? It is calculated based on the values which is available in the table already. Okay, this table is fixed for your PSK or phase shift keying. Now this table is available in a standard book, so you will have to refer to the table. Once you have the table with you, calculating this is very, very easy. So this is how I calculated the answer, or this is how the answer is calculated. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Now this is again one of the standard questions which they ask. Okay. In hierarchical routing with 4800 routers, what region and cluster sizes should be chosen to minimize the size of the routing table for a 3-layer hierarchy? So what are the hierarchies? First I have routers, then I have regions, then I have clusters. Okay. But what do I want? I want to choose I want to minimize the size of the routing table. Okay. So how do I do it? Okay. So let's take this. If a 3-level hierarchy is chosen with, suppose if we say, this is an example. Okay. Suppose if there are 8 clusters, each containing 9 regions of 10 routers. Remember, the hierarchy goes like this. First it is cluster. Below cluster, it is region. Below region, it is router. Okay, so that is the hierarchy. Okay, so if this is the hierarchy, now listen carefully. Each router needs 10 entries for the local router. So every router has to have an entry about every other one. So 10 entries for the routers. Only 8 entries for routing to other regions, because these routers form one region. Okay, all these routers, the 10 routers belong to one region. So there will be only, there are not 9 regions. If you include yourself, there are only 8 regions entry should be there in your routing table. And when I take the cluster, all this 9 region, it belongs to one cluster within its own cluster. So there will be only 7 entries for your clusters. So when I look at the order, see the order is, when I say routers, entries for all the routers. But when I say regions, 1 less. When I say cluster, 1 less. Why? Because all these 20 routers belong to one region. So they are already included in that region. So 1 you can reduce there. And all the 24 region belong to one cluster. So again, 1 you can subtract there. So there will be 1 less cluster there. Now here again, the theory behind why it is done this way, please go through the basics of how a routing table is filled. You will get it. But this is the shortcut for doing it. So in order to know the size of the routing table, you have to follow this. What you have to follow, suppose if I have all these values, how many entries should be there? 20 routers, so 20. The regions are 24, but only 23 entries. Clusters are 10, but only 9 entries. So 20 plus 23 plus 9, it's 52. Take the second one. Go from the right to left, okay? Don't go from left to right. Right to left. So 20 routers, again 20. What is the value of regions? 19 regions. How many clusters? 11 clusters. What is the value? 50. So put all these values and keep it. Which is the routing table which has got the lowest value? Lowest value is 49. So the correct answer is 49. Okay. I hope you got it. This is a trick which you use for solving this kind of problem. Again, I'm stressing on taking and learning the basic theory behind it. Okay. Now let's move on to the next question. This is a very simple one. You have to find the Hamming distance between two bit sequences. So how will I find the Hamming distance? What is Hamming distance first of all? Hamming distance of two code words is how many bits are different from each other. That is your Hamming bit. So let's take this. Okay. So I've written the bit sequence. The first one 100101000100110. Okay. What is the second one? 1101111. How many ones are there? 4 ones are there. 01101. Okay. Now when I put them together, see which bit sequence is different. Now I have highlighted all the red ones are different. So here it is 0 and 1. So it's different 1. So if you count the red ones, 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So how many positions where the bits differ? 6 positions. So what is the Hamming distance? Hamming distance is 6. 6 is the right answer. Okay. Did you all get it? Yes, all of you understood? Yeah. Okay. So now let's look at some simple questions. Okay. And then we'll move on to some more little bit of problem solving. There are two kind of questions. There are two kind of problem solving still, which I want to do. One is based again on RSA algorithm, which is slightly different. And one more is based on subnet masking. If you have heard of it, subnet masking, and sometimes they ask questions on that. So you need to know that. I will come there. But before that, these are again some standard questions which they will ask. Okay. Please note it down, whatever is here. If a code is T error correcting, the minimum Hamming distance is equal to. What is the answer? It's just a formula. It is 2t plus 1. That's a formula. Okay. Remember this. Now this is for error correcting. Now there is something called error detecting. To reliably detect T errors, what is the distance? It is T plus 1. So for T error correcting, Hamming distance should be equal to 2t plus 1. To detect T errors, the Hamming distance should be T plus 1. Remember this formula because they will ask this in different kinds of questions. Okay. Sometimes they will ask directly. These are all direct questions. There is no calculation, there is nothing. You just have to remember and you will have to answer it. Okay, so please remember this. Okay, it's very important. There's one more thing which is important. This also they were asking before. Hopefully, I believe they must be asking now. The ATM cells are dash bytes long. How many bytes long? Okay, so it has got a 5 byte header with 48 byte payload. So 48 plus 5 is 53. So 53 is the right answer. What is the size of your ATM cell? It is 53 bytes long. It's a straightforward question. Now, one more question which they will ask is with IP version 4 and IP version 6, the structure of your IP version 4. Sometimes they will say, what is the number of bytes for IP version 4 header? What is the number of bytes for IP version 4? You know, everything, the entire stream of data you want to transmit, what is the number of bytes? Sometimes they will ask, what is the size for IP version 6, and so on. These are all direct questions. You can again make it as a cheat sheet with you and keep it. Okay. Now, just before the day of the exam, you need to only look at the cheat sheet, nothing else. Okay. Next one. This again is a very important question. They will ask for slotted aloha. They will also ask for another aloha. I will refer to another question. Remember this. Okay. For slotted aloha, the maximum channel utilization is 36%. Just again, it's just a fact. Just remember this fact. Okay. Next one. This is a simple problem. Okay. So let's look at how the problem is done. Please take down the problem. Okay. Okay. So the question is this. For a channel of 3 kilohertz bandwidth and signal to noise ratio of 30 dB, the maximum data rate is what? Okay. So now bandwidth is given, which is H hertz. Signal to noise ratio is represented by S by N. That is also given. Okay. What is the formula? The formula is H log 2 1 plus S by N. Okay. Now S by N ratio of suppose if it is if the value is 10 dB, S by N ratio will be 10. Okay. If it is 20, the ratio will be 100. If it is 30, the value will be 1000. Now this is again a standard list which is available in any of the books. Again, you can refer to Tannenbaum or any book. It will tell you this answer. So now S by N ratio for a 30 dB is 1000. So I will fill S by N value as 1000. So 1 plus 1000 is the value here. When you find the log of this, it is going to be 9.96. And when I take this 3000 and I multiply it, now this is again an approximation which happens here. 9.96 is almost closer to 10. So 3000 into 10 is almost similar to or almost exactly close to your 30,000 BPS. Okay. So there is a, so again, remember this formula for the data rate of a noisy channel. How to calculate the data rate of a noisy channel? You should know this. Okay. So keep this again in your cheat sheet. So make your own cheat sheet. Now I'm not telling you these are the only questions which they will ask. So you should be in a position to make cheat sheet for any kind of questions which are coming. Okay. But normally what they do is this, their focus is on some kind of questions like this. They will always focus on. Okay. So if you take DBMS, there'll be one on normalization, functional dependency. There'll be one on that. If you take software engineering, they will have questions on coupling, cohesion. What is the difference? Okay. Which is good? Is coupling good? More coupling is good. More cohesion is good. In order to simply confuse people, they will ask all these questions. So you need to be thorough with all these things, because these are some kind of questions which are often repeated. Okay. Next one, an example of a public key encryption algorithm. This is again a fact, knapsack algorithm. Okay. Now, with reference to hierarchical routing, the optimum number of levels for an M router subnet is, again, this is a formula, log ln m, logarithm m. Okay. Next one, the channel capacity of a band limited Gaussian channel. This again It's a formula. Remember this. This again they will ask. Again, repeatedly ask question. What is the channel capacity of a band limited Gaussian channel? It's B log 2 1 plus S by N. Next one. An example of a layer that is absent in broadcast network is your network layer. ATM cell, see just now I asked what is the size of your ATM cell. Again they have asked how many bytes long. It's 53 bytes long because we already know the answer. Okay. Transmission of N signals, each band limited to FM hertz, FN to M. Okay, it's not FM like that. By TDM, time division multiplexing, requires a minimum bandwidth of, this is again a formula. Okay, so look at the answer. The answer is C, which is N of FM. Okay, that is the answer. This is again a formula. So if you go to any book, you will find this formula. Now, see, I'm again asking you this question. This question was asked just few pages back. I asked this question. Can anyone tell me the answer? If a code is T error detecting, the minimum Hamming distance should be equal to what? Just now we saw this question. Okay, see, T plus 1, correct? Yes. Wow, wonderful. I have all of you are listening. Okay, C is the right answer because this is error detecting. If it was error correcting, it was 2T plus 1. See, that is the subtle difference between both of this. So remember, write this down. Okay, error detecting T plus 1, error correcting 2T plus 1 for the minimum Hamming distance. So remember this. Okay, now we saw again throughput of what Aloha we saw. Wait a minute, let me just check and come. I told you I will, for slotted Aloha we saw, okay, maximum channel utilization. Now, what is the question here related to this Aloha? You will get again lot of questions, okay. So what is the question here? That was the same thing, but now they are asking throughput, okay. So this is a different formula. So what is the formula? There's again a formula only. So nothing to explain. G e to the power of minus G. Again, part of your cheat sheet. Remember that, okay. Congestion control is done by which layer? It's done by your network layer. I've also mentioned what are the other things which are done by the layer. Addressing, internetworking, error handling, packet sequencing. Okay. Next one, see this question. Twisted pairs are widely used as transmission medium. This is an assertion. Reasoning. Twisted pairs have adequate performance and low cost. Now again, these kind of questions normally will come in paper 1. But I'm finding this in paper 2 also. Okay. So what is the answer for it? So what are the options? A, B, C and D are given. Okay. So which is the option? Now the option for this is the exact statements are given in Tannenbaum book. See, I've even mentioned the page number of the Tannenbaum book. You can go and refer to it. Page number 91. You will find that due to their adequate performance and low cost, twisted pairs are widely used and are likely to remain so for years to come. Okay, so the same statement is given there and they have picked up from that same book and given as a question. Okay, so that is why I'm telling you, please refer to the standard book and spend some time referring to it. Okay, an example of a non-adaptive routing algorithm. Now again, when it comes to routing, you should be very careful. You should know what are the classifications, what are the types in each one, because sometimes they will ask you some simple questions this way. If you know the right answer, that's it, you're done. Okay. So what is the right answer for it? Shortest path routing is the right answer. Okay. Now IP address in class B, we have already seen this. I told you sometimes the question might get repeated because I put it one on the topic, I put it one on the question paper, year wise. Okay. Next one, a high performance switching and multiplexing technology that utilizes fixed length packet to carry different types of traffic is ATM. Okay. So ATM explanation is given there. Then a conventional LAN bridge specifies only the functions of OSI. Which layers? Layers 1 and 2 is the right answer. Okay. Next one. In order that, see again, this is the third time we are getting the same question. Okay. In order that a code is error correcting, the minimum Hamming distance should be. Now tell me the right answer. Can anyone tell me the right answer? Yes, correct, correct. All of you are correct. Sharon, Hannah, Jyoti, everybody, full marks. 2T plus 1 is the right answer. Okay, so we have already seen it. Next one, throughput of pure aloha. Now, one was slaughtered aloha. This is the pure aloha. Remember, learn all of it. Okay, pure aloha, slaughtered aloha. What is it? Learn it. Now, with slaughtered aloha, it is g e to the power of minus g. For pure aloha, it is g e to the power of minus 2g. That is the answer here. Okay, remember this. This is again a very, very often repeated question. Okay, fiber distributed data interface uses what? The answer is multimode fibers and LEDs. Again, please refer to the answer. I think fibers, I've given 2 B's. The spelling is wrong. It's only 1 B. Okay. To employ multi-access in GSM, users are given different frequency bands. This again, if you search for all these questions, you will get the answer, but you can always refer to the specific topic and find the related information. X.25 protocol consists of what? Physical frame and packet level. Again, go into the theory. It will talk about all of this. Now, I want to focus more on those questions where there are answers to be solved. Okay, this is again GSM CDMA systems are limited to very low speed data, require no local loop wires, predominantly used for voice. All of it are correct. Information security in a network is achieved by what? Now this, I think all of you can answer without seeing. Even the last option, if I put it also, I think you can answer this question. Can you try it? Information security in a network is achieved by grade of service. It's B. Okay, cryptography. Very good, very good, very good. That's all. Okay, B is the right answer. Fine. Now again, when compared with analog cellular systems, advantage of digital TDMA cellular system is that, what is it? It conserves spectrum bandwidth. Sometimes what happens, what you can do is, you can take all these questions, write down the information, because there are many chances that they might ask a similar question in a different format. That's all. So make your own important conclusions out of all the questions which you are getting. Now, one more thing which I want you to focus on is, see, there are many different kinds of devices, right? Router, bridge, gateway. Find out what each one does. Where does switch come in? Where does router come in? Where is bridge used? What is gateway? Understand everything, because they will ask a question just to confuse people on choosing the right device between all this communication. See what is the question here? The device which connects dissimilar LANs of different topologies using different sets of communication protocol so that information can flow from one to another is called. So what is the right answer? Gateway is the right answer. So make a list of what is the use of switch, what is the use of gateway, what is the use of bridge, what is the use of router. And be very clear about it, because sometimes they will ask the purpose of each one, but slightly they will confuse the options and they will ask you, okay. Devices on one network, and again, see, just now I told you, again a similar question. Devices on one network can communicate with devices on another network via a gateway. What is the maximum window size in sliding window protocol used in a computer network? The answer is 4. Take it, okay. Which of the following are data link layer standard? Now this, again, you should sit and go through. What is Ethernet? What is frame relay? What is token ring? What of it? All of it. But the answer is, what is the answer? C would be the right answer. Yeah, C is the right answer. So it's 1, 3, 4, and 5. So what are data link layer standards? One is Ethernet, frame relay, 10BASE-T, and token ring. What is the theory behind it? Please sit and go through it, okay. Next one, bus tree topology, signal balancing issue is overcome by segmentation. Next one, match the following. They are again talking about, see, they are talking about the finer working of each one of these protocols. Just now we saw what is Ethernet, where is token ring used. They are asking a finer difference, finer, how it works, okay. So let's see what is the answer. Answer is A. First is D, which is Ethernet, checking valid address. And 2 is A, token ring, deterministic. 3 is cut through switch, utilize the full wire speed. Spanning tree, prevent looping. Okay. Of course, a tree is something which prevents loops. Okay. So if you are not very clear about any of the options, look for any shortcuts there. You will get something. Okay. There is no doubt about it. Then single stage network is also called recirculating network. Now this is what I'm saying. There are some questions which are just facts and formulas. We just have to take it. There is no other go. Okay. Which technology is sometimes referred to as wireless cable? MMDS is referred to as wireless cable. MMDS is multi-point multi-channel distribution system. Another name of, now what I did was, actually when I was preparing for the exam, what I did was I did all of this, each subject I prepared all this problem solving and all. Then I took it out as a printout. Okay. Then I had one big, bound book with me. The previous day of the exam and the day of the exam in the morning and afternoon, when I was writing, it was a full day exam. So the lunch break and all of that, I just referred to this notes which I made. That's all. That was my full cheat sheet, because there is no time. You cannot carry 10 different books to a examination place. Nowadays, they have made the examination more and more stricter. So what you do is, I again stressing you, make your own cheat sheet. Make your own cheat sheet. Important. Every subject at least 1 page or 2 page. Very, very important. Okay. Next one, another name of IEEE 802.11 is C. Okay. End-to-end connectivity is provided from last to last in. Now, which layer is this? This is again your transport layer. What services does the internet layer provide? Now, this they are combining with the TCP/IP protocol. Okay, so it is a comparison between this. That is why I told you, when you are learning OSI, learn TCP/IP as well. It will be useful for you. Okay. What is the maximum operating rate of a wireless LAN using infrared communication? It is 2 Mbps. Okay. Now, wireless LANs are also called IEEE 802.11. Okay. We just saw that question there. Cost of the network is usually determined by switching complexity, not by any one of this. Okay. Then frequent shift keying is used mostly in. Where is it used? Okay. And I've given a long explanation for it, because I've spent some time trying to understand it. I will talk about it later. Okay. I want to go to the question where they did a problem solving on your, RSA algorithm. I want to do that. The baud rate is, what is the connection? It is equal to twice the bandwidth of an ideal channel. That is the connection between them. Okay. Now this is again a simple, information. This you will get anywhere. Okay. So I'm going to skip those questions where there is just information. Skip the question. Okay. See here, that's what I'm saying. There are some questions. It's always possible that you're getting an option which is not correct, but you have to choose the best option there. Okay. What they're asking is, which of the following file transfer protocol uses TCP and establish 2 virtual circuits between the local and remote server? So I felt, according to me personally, my opinion was, between A and B there is some confusion. Okay. C and D are completely ruled out. So I had just made a choice between A and B, and I chosen A as the right answer. Okay. This again I'm leaving because it is a fact-based question. This is a fact-based question. This is again one of your QPSK. This is again phase shift keying. Spend some time in phase shift keying, because there are a lot of questions asked in phase shift keying. Okay. So let me try to explain you the answer for this question, what we are trying to do here. Okay. Let me read the question and I will explain to you how it works. If carrier modulated by a digital bit stream has one of the possible phase of 0, 90, 180 and 270 degrees, that modulation is called, is it BPSK, QPSK, QAM, MSK? Now, we don't even know what is expansion for all of it, but QPSK stands for quadrature phase shift keying. So what is quadrature phase shift keying? So this is the basis for this. A communication system may be digital based depending on the type of data to be transmitted, or the nature of signal getting transmitted. So there are two things here, data and signal. Now, when I have data and signal, there are four possible combinations which are allowed. What is it? Data can be analog, signal can be analog. Data can be analog, signal can be digital. Data can be digital, signal can be analog. Data can be digital, signal also can be digital. So now here, what we are doing is we are looking at the second one where analog data and digital signal, there are three types of shift keying. What are the three types? Amplitude, frequency, and phase shift. In phase shift, in the quadrature phase shift keying, there are 4 degrees, 0, 90, 180 and 270. If you're going to take a, just a clue based on it is quadrature, so this must be, QPSK. In order to do that, you should know what is QPSK for. You got it? If you know that, then you can take the risk and then say B is the right option. You got it? But whatever it is, this is the full explanation for it. Again, explanation will be available in a good standard book. Okay. Now this again, I am skipping it, whichever one is easy. BCC in the internet refers to, again, this is a very, very easy question. Blind carbon copy. Okay. I am leaving that. Okay. This also I'm going to leave. Yes, this I'll ask you. A station in a network forwarding or forward incoming packets by placing them on a shortest output queue. What routing algorithm? That's called as your hot potato routing. I'm very sure you would have learned it when you were learning the different kinds of routing algorithm. Start and stop bits are used in serial communication for what? Synchronization. Okay. See, this is what I said, number of bits required for an IP version 6 address. What is the number of bits? It is 128. Now this is again a simple question which they will ask. Networks that use different technologies that can be connected by using what? Routers. Okay. Then again this I will leave. Okay. This I asked you before. Okay. This again I will leave. This question I'll ask you. In which routing method do all the routers have a common database? Okay. What is the option given? Distance vector, link state. Now remember, there are two major classes of routing methods. One is distance vector and the other is link state. So put that classification in the tree form. Okay. In distance vector, each router knows only its neighbors. In the case of link state, all the routers know about all the paths reachable to all the other routers in the network. Now, that is what I told you. Spend some time in understanding the basic related to routing. Take what is routing, what are the categories, what are the algorithms in each one of the categories. It will be very useful. They will ask in different examination papers, they are asking this question. Okay, this we saw already. Okay, phase shift keying. This again is easy. This again traditional Ethernet technology. This again theory, so please spend some time on the theory. I've already done it here. See, this is one question where there is no answer for it. There is no right answer at all because the right answer is not provided. Now, in such cases, sometimes what they will do is they will only give marks to all the people, irrespective of whatever you have attempted. They will give you the correct answer if there is no correct answer mentioned or no correct option is mentioned. Okay, I've given the reasoning as to why the correct option is not mentioned, because in the answer key they had given Dijikra's vector as the right answer, but it cannot be that cannot be the right answer. So I just left it. Now if you believe that such questions are asked, just choose whatever you feel like and then get over with it. There is no point in wasting your time. Next one, the number of bit strings of length 8 that will either start with a 1 bit or end with 2 bit 00 shall be. Now there is a reason, there is explanation which is given in this particular web link. Okay, I have provided the web link also where explanation for the same is given. Okay, so I am leaving this. I will quickly move to the question. This and all is done already. I will go to the question where, this is what I said. They will ask you on the size of your header or what is there. See, in IP version 4 header, the dash field is needed to allow the destination host to determine which datagram a newly arrived fragments belong to. So answer is what? Fragment offset. So you should know, see, this is again one of the important things which you should know. IP version 4, version 6, IP version 4, the entire structure you should know. And again, IP version 6, entire structure you should know. Sometimes they will ask questions from any one of it. Okay. Again, this is very simple. When data and acknowledgement are sent in the same frame, this is called as piggybacking. Okay. Encryption and decryption is a responsibility. This we have already seen. Okay. This again we have seen, so we will not see this. Now quickly we will, this is the question which I was talking about. Oh no, this we have already done. Value of E is we have already done. I want to ask you one more question where there is a which is a multicast address. It is class D is a multicast address. Okay, remember that. Again, which layer of OSI reference model? I gave only some samples there. See, there are other questions also. ICMP, it belongs to the network layer. What is the size of header length field in IP version 4 header? It is only 4 bits. So these are some standard questions which are, this is the question which I want to spend some time on. Okay, let's try to understand what we are doing here. Okay. So let's see the question using RSA algorithm. So this is again our RSA algorithm. What is the value of ciphertext C if they want the value of the encrypted text? If the plain text value is 5, that is M is equal to 5. P is provided, Q is provided, D is provided. Okay. And there are answers. So let's see how we got the answer. Okay. Now again, we know already P is given, Q is given. What is N? P into Q. We calculated. Okay. What is the value of M? P minus 1 into Q minus 1. So 2 into 1, 20. Now what you should do? Find a small odd integer that is relatively prime to M. What is prime to M? 20. Okay. What is the odd integer which is relatively prime to M? So we can start from, let's say 1 and 2, but 2, although it is a, what to say, it is a even prime, but 2 and 20, the GCD will not be 1. But when I take the value 3, which is the lowest prime number which I can consider, starting from 1, 2, 3, 3 and 20, the value of GCD will be 1. So I can take the value of E as 3. Okay. See, okay. So here what we did was, we have manually calculated the value of E because the interest is not on calculating the value of E, the interest is on calculating the value of the ciphertext. Okay. So E is got, remember the property related to E, you have to remember. What is the property related to E? It will be a small value, it will be a prime number. It will be prime to the value of M. What is M? M is P minus 1 into Q minus 1. So the value of M is 20 here. So the value of E is prime to M. So the lowest, smallest prime number possible in this case is, we are taking 1, not applicable, 2, not applicable, 3, applicable. Okay. So we got this. Now, what is the value of D? D is already given as 7. Okay. Now let's take the public key. Now remember, this is again a list which is already given in the book. What is public key? What is the value which you require for public key? You require E and N value. What is the value of E? 3. What is the value of N? We already know it. Okay. What is the value of N? N is 33. Correct? Okay. Next one, to encrypt a message, we apply the public key to the function. So this is the formula which we have to use. Okay. What is the formula? Encrypted message E of S is nothing but S to the power of E mod N. What is S? S is the given message. What is E? E we have already calculated, a prime number. What is N? N we already know. N is P into Q. Okay. So Let us simply substitute the formulas. What is a plain text value? M is equal to 5. Let me substitute the formula. So 5 is the value of S. What is the value of E? E is 3. So 5 cube within brackets mod. What is the value of N? 33. Mod 33. What is 5 to the power of 3? 5 into 5 into 5. What is 5 into 5 into 5? It's 125. 125 mod 33. If you do the calculation, you will get the answer as 26. So what is the value of the encrypted message? 26. So if you try to send 5 using the RSA algorithm, the encrypted message will be 26. The answer is 26. Did you all get it? Yeah. Yes. Can you just put a message or something? Okay. Yes. Fantastic. Okay. Now this again, I'm leaving this question because I want to do this again, I'm leaving it. I want to do the subnet mask question. With that, we can finish it. Okay. Hamming distance, we have already seen. This question we'll see. Okay. This question and the subnet mask question, and then we'll be done. So, given code word which is to be transmitted with even parity check bit, the encoded word to be transmitted for this code is what? So this is the bit sequence which I want to transmit, but I want to transmit with even parity. So let's try to understand what is the meaning of even parity. So we will, what is the meaning of even parity? Even parity means the number of ones in the bit transmitted should be even. Okay. Odd parity means the number of ones in the number of ones in the bit transmitted should be odd. So since it is even parity, let's take the bit sequence. What is the bit sequence? It is 11100001010. So this is my bit sequence. Okay, 11100001010. Let me count the number of ones. Okay, how many ones are there? 1, 2, 3. I have highlighted everything in red. You can see it very clearly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many ones are there? 5 ones are there. It is odd. So this is in odd parity. We want the number, we want the bit sequence to go in even parity. How can I make it as an even parity? By adding one bit, I can make it as an even parity. So take the same number, 11100001010 was there. I'm going to add 1 to it. When I add it, now if I count the number of bit sequence, it is 6. So I have got a even parity. Now which is the answer which has got this? This 11100001010, it has got a 1 here. This is the right answer. So what is the right answer? Answer is A. Okay. I hope all of you understood the difference between the even parity and the odd parity. Okay. Now this again is all simple yes/no questions. This we have already solved it. Okay. Let me quickly do the I'll come back to it if I find time. Okay, but I want to do the this is the question. Okay, if a network on the internet has a subnet mask of 255.255.240.0, what is the maximum number of hosts it can handle? Okay, so what is the answer for it? So what does a subnet mask do? It partitions your IP4 address into version 4 address into two parts. One is your one is your network ID and the other one is your host ID. So this I have taken from some text. Okay, that is why it is high. It is italized and shown. I'm going to read it as it is. Okay, if a bit in an IP version 4 address is used as part of the network ID, then the corresponding mask bit is set to 1. If a bit in an IP version 4 address is used as part of the host ID, then the corresponding mask bit is set to 0. So I know that when I talk about this address, there is a network ID, there is a host ID. How will I differentiate the network ID and the host ID? Network ID is all ones.
host ID is all 0. Okay. Now, why only these are ones? Let's see. What is my subnet mask? It is 255. 255 means what? All the bits are 1. So that is your 255. Done. The second octet we will take 255. This is also all the bits are 1. Done. Now let's take the third octet. It's only 240. So how is it 240? The first bit is 2 to the power of 0. This is 1, 2, 4. Okay. So I can take it as 1, 2, 4, 8. This one is 16, 32, 64, 128. So if you add 128 plus 64 plus 32 plus 16, you will get 240. Okay, that is your network ID. Now, whatever are your zeros, that is all your host ID. So all the zeros correspond to the host IDs. Now count how many zeros are there. Now this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in this octet, there are 8 bits which are 0. Here there is 4. So 8 plus 4 is 12. So the number of places where there is a 0 is 12. Okay. So the number of hosts will be equal to 2 to the power of 12. What is the value of 2 to the power of 12? It is 4096. So the number of hosts will be 4096. That is the answer. Okay. I hope all of you got it. So please work out on some problems where there is an IP address and there is also a subnet mask. You should know completely the theory behind subnet mask. Okay. Now there's one more question here. I will solve this also. See the question. 4 bits are used for packet sequence numbering in a sliding window protocol used in a computer network. What is the maximum window size? Okay. So this is a sliding window protocol. Okay. So let's try to understand what is the rule here. For a 3-bit sequence number, see 4 bits are used. That's very important. If 3 bits were used, the sequence number of windows range from 0 to 7. Yes, because when I have 3 bits, the lowest which you can get is 0, 0, 0. The highest which you can get is 1, 1, 1. So when I take 1, 1, 1, it is nothing but 1 plus 2 plus 4, which is nothing but 7. Okay. I hope all of you are able to understand it. I'm going a bit fast because there is no time. For a 4-bit sequence number, the sequence range will range from 0 to 15. So this is again, you know, if I take 4-bit sequence number, I put all zeros, then I will get a 0. I put all ones, I will get a 15. Okay. What is the maximum window size for this? The maximum window size is calculated this way. Maximum sequence plus 1 divided by 2. What is the maximum sequence here? 15. 15 plus 1 divided by 2 is 16 by 2, which is nothing but 8. So the maximum window size is 8. Now if you recollect, we found a similar question before where they asked for the maximum window size of a sliding window protocol. We took the sequence number as a 3-bit sequence number. What is the maximum range? It is 7. So what will be the window size? It is 7 plus 1 divided by 2, 8 divided by 2, which is 4. That is why we selected the answer as 4. Okay. So that was for one of the questions there. So here the correct answer is B, which is 8, because they are specifically asking for 4 bits of the answer. Okay. Before coming to the important formula, I will just do one last question here. Consider a code with 5 valid codes of length 10. Okay. So this is a length 10. There are 5 codes. Okay. All the 10 bits are 0. All the 10 bits are 1. Half is 0, half is 1. Then here it is 1, here it is 0. Some of them. So what is the Hamming distance of the code? Now what you need to do is you need to find the Hamming distance between all code words. So what I'll do is I'll take this, find the Hamming distance with this. Now we have already seen a problem where Hamming distance has to be found out. What is the Hamming distance? It is the number of bits which differ. When I look at it, you can very clearly see the number of bits differing from this and this is 5. Number of bits differing from this and this is again 5, and so on. So what you do is write the sequence with you, okay? And what will be the Hamming distance here? It will be the minimum of the distance between all code words. That is, whichever is the Hamming distance which is the lowest, that will be the distance. So what is the one which has got the lowest value? It is 5. So the answer is 5. Okay. So like this, you have to take all the previous year questions, sit and solve it. That is the only way you can get it. Don't try to bypass a question if it is difficult. Spend some time in solving the question. Okay. So here I have just given all the important formulas here, whatever we had done. Okay. I'm looking at some links for objective questions. Sometimes what they do is they just pick up one computer network question from some other website which is available. So I've just listed out some few questions which are given there, like India Bix being very popular. Okay, then you can search for anything. Okay, and of course I used all these books. Okay, Computer Networks by Tannenbaum, Gallo, and William Hancock. Okay, so refer to some standard book. That's very, very important. And one more thing is, I will quickly type the name of the blog. Okay, it's called, I hope I remember, UGC. I'll remember and type in lowercase. UGC Net Solved hyphen computer science dot blogspot.in. Okay, this is the one where I have solved questions from different topics. Okay, I've done it from data structures, then I've done it from DBMS, I've done it from TOC, I've done it from quite a lot of places. You can pick any one of it. I mean, just go through any of it, and I've solved it even year wise question paper also I've tried to solve. Now that is what, in the name of solving, it's not about just giving the answer. You should tell why or how you arrived at that answer. So that is why it is very important to solve that question and see it. Okay, now what I want to do is, I want to make this, whatever which I have condensed it in the form of all the question papers and explanations, I want to make it as a small book and release it in some Amazon or something. So that is why I'm not giving this notes to you right now. Okay, but once I do it, I will tell Vinodina ma'am to give you the link and you can download it from there. Okay, hopefully I just hope that this session was useful for you people. And thanks a lot for your patient listening and correct answering of questions. All the best for your examination. If you have any doubts, you can ask me in the chat box now. We have already come to the end of the session. It's only 10 minutes more. I'll take any questions. Okay, or if you have any general doubts regarding any of the writing or preparation for any paper, you can ask me. I will try to help you out. I belong to the MCA department of computer science. I believe there is one student from Kumar sir here. Yes, is it Sharon? I'm not sure who is the person. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks a lot for your patient hearing. I want to put this consolidation as early as possible. So I will do that. Okay, Sharon. It is Sharon. It is because sir was mentioning in when we were talking that one of the student is in there in the session. Okay, thanks a lot. And that is what, see, the thing is, there is no one for data structure. There is one, what to say, take the most standard book for for any subject. Like when you did your course, MCA, MSc, your teachers would have suggested, refer to this textbook. Take that textbook for studying. Okay, that is only going to help you. It is not going to be of any use looking at like consolidated book and all. It is never useful. Okay, take that standard book. What you do is, what I suggest is, sometimes what happens, taking a book and reading it from the beginning now, it's going to be very difficult because you have already done it. Okay. So what you do is, take the old question papers, read those. Once you finish the old question papers, what's going to happen is, you would have at least finished 60% of the topics which are already there. So the rest 40%, you can look at what is not there and you can finish it off. That's what I'm telling you. Some of the standard book like operating system, I think William Stallings was the book where they just take the question as it is. They take the question and give it without even sometimes changing the numbers, and giving the question. Okay. So please refer to it. And I have used one in the YouTube. There is one, for operating system, for TOC and all. There is a very nice lecture that guy has joined an academy now. Okay. I'm not remembering his name, but you put TOC, Theory of Computation lectures. He explain. It's called Knowledge Gate. Okay, Knowledge Gate is the name because he takes for gate coaching. Okay, so he's very thoroughly explains everything. I kind of liked it, and it was very useful for me when I was learning TOC and all. He was very explanatory. So you can use that Knowledge Gate lectures for learning TOC, operating system problems, all of that. It was very useful. Okay. So Knowledge Gate is the one which you can refer to. He has got lectures on all the topics, data structures and operating system, but not everything he doesn't finish. He starts and leaves it kind of midway, but then whatever he does it well. So make a note of this also, Knowledge Gate. Use this blog, which is very useful for explanatory reading. And I really do not believe in just looking at the answer. I want to know the answer, how you arrived at the answer. That is the challenge. So that I wanted to do even for the theory questions. Okay, I'm not finding time now with all the work. I'm not able to find the time. And really all the best, and thank you for all your comments. If there are any more doubts, you can ask me. Like the Gaurambika asked me for any books on data structure and DBMS. As I told you, refer to the standard book, which is recommended by your teacher, by your professor, by your lecturer. You can use that. But I suggest solving the earlier questions previous year questions was very useful for me. But you have to solve it. It's not about knowing the answer. So take the question paper, sit and try to solve it. You will get it. Okay. Try to know the reason behind it. Then only you will get it. Then it will be useful for you. By the time you finish, as I told you, around 60% or 70% of your syllabus, you will cover in solving these earlier papers only. That is how it will help you, because they will not ask the same questions. See, this I've seen in parallel processing, they ask this Amdahl's law. They will always ask this question in some form or other. There is one formula for that. So that they will ask. In some way, they will ask that question. And software engineering, they will ask that, that CMM model, they will ask what is the different levels. Because that should be part of your cheat sheet. Okay. And they will ask coupling, cohesion, what is the difference, which one is better. Just to confuse again, they will ask all those kind of questions. So you should be very sure about, because there are some 7 kinds of cohesion, 5 kinds of coupling. You should know all of this by name and how it works. So there are some standard things which they will ask. And if you have any doubts in future also, you can always ask me. Okay. And Sharon and everybody else, Kumar sir will be there. If you have any clarifications in the future, you can, get back to me. Thanks a lot. Vinodina ma'am, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Okay, ma'am. I'm done with the session, ma'am. Okay.
Okay,
All the best, everybody. Okay.
Thank you, Vani ma'am, so for your wonderful and very energetic and informative session. I could see many response from the participants.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So, if there no more queries or questions, shall I end the session, ma'am? Shall we ask the admin to end the session?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Thanks a lot. All the best. All the best.
Participants.